Hello once again and welcome to Herd Immunity News. I'm Marcus Botta. Today I have the great pleasure in welcoming back to the show Mr. Dave Atherton. Dave Atherton is a regular on Talk TV. His tweets and his web page are quite extraordinary. He is a guy who's on the money when it comes to the ills, social ills of our day. But we're going to get his views tonight on the general election and what the likely outcome is going to be. But without further ado, let me say, Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, actually. We live in interesting times, I think, as Chairman Mao said. So, no, it's never a dull day at the moment, is it?
No, it isn't, and especially with the comings and goings of D-Day, which I'm going to bring you on to, if I may get your thoughts.
Sure.
Obviously, this is in relation to Rishi Sunak's quick escape, exit stage left off for an ITN interview, which pre-recorded, going out on Wednesday. Sure. Is this the biggest faux pas that we've seen in the run-up to a general election since Gordon Brown called Gillian Duffy, a Labour voter, a bigoted woman in Rochdale, 2010?
I think this is even worse. I just cannot think of anything more grievous than this. Also, as well, the thing that sort of grabs me, which I've seen no one else talk about. You know, Rishi Sunak knows he's more toast than heated bread. He's going to get slaughtered. He's going to get trounced. He's not going to win. You would have thought that his legacy, would be, one of my last official engagements was to go to D-Day, meet the veterans, hobnob with all the world leaders. You never know, you might get a job out of it as well, But instead, he was obsessed with apparently also calling it Paul Brand, the ITV bloke. He requested the interview. It wasn't a case of they blagged him for the interview. He requested it. Okay, he's made the excuse that he's seen plenty of other veterans during the week. But I'm sorry, that just doesn't wear with me. I cannot think of anything more. It's a bit like when Joe Biden looks at his watch, at a veterans event as well. There's nothing more insulting. There's nothing more degrading and insulting the memory of the people that died on the beaches in Normandy and basically brought the Second World War to an end. I'm told that the opening scene in Private Riot, whereby the landing craft fronts come down, and the troops want to pour out, and the M42, I think it's 57-meter carbines open up, machine guns open up on the troops. I'm told that is probably the best depiction of what war is like. As a movie, it was gripping. And that's even use the word to say you enjoyed something because it was gripping. Again, runs into insulting. The people that died that day in Normandy and throughout the French campaign from 6th of June onwards. I jump out of my bed if I hear a noise in the street. Imagine if you were surrounded by mortar fire and artillery fire, the rat-a-tat of machine guns and the single shots from the Mauser rifles. You really have to. The only thing you can have in that situation is courage. I'm sure your instinct and your self-survival skills kick in as well, but to actually have done that, you really must have shown some balls. And by the way, I don't really know, and please fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure I read that they used only raw recruits on D-Day because they knew if they sent in experienced soldiers, they wouldn't do the job. They sent in specifically fresh raw recruits because they didn't know what danger they're going into. I have read that on Omaha Beach, the Americans took 90% casualties.
Yeah, look, there's so many statistics that come out about this. Sure. And as you correctly said, the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan,
Yeah.
a great film by Steven Spielberg that we recommend to anybody, gave us a little bit of an insight into the carnage and the bravery it would have taken.
Sure.
And I think the contempt has been seen right across the board. Obviously, that this hits home hardest with the Conservatives' old guard, if we can put it in that term. The last remaining loyal cohort that they had were those elderly people who may not have may not be old enough to fought in the war, but they would have remembered the war. I mean, Lee Anderson of Reform, formerly Conservative Party in Ashfield, came up with an interesting point. He said it's perhaps because Rishi Sunak's parents weren't here for the war years. Does he have a point with that?
Yes, I suppose, but vaguely, is it sort of, could you sort of let him slightly off the hook on that basis? I don't think so. I really don't think so. If you were born here and you were raised on British history and culture, you should have some empathy for what was going on. I think Sunak's main problem was that he's a globalist. He doesn't really care about Britain. Yes, he'd like to see it doing well. It's a bit like, I don't know, when you're watching the World Cup, you obviously want England to win, but you obviously want Scotland to do well as well. But you're not exactly gutted if they lose. It's sort of like Wales or Northern Ireland. Obviously cheering them on when you want the best. But if they do get knocked out, you won't be bursting into tears. But if England gets out, it's a case of I'm sulking for a week. But I think that's his attitude. Yes, he'd like Britain to do well, but he's a globalist, and he cares more about his placing in the world pecking order than he does about his own country.
Absolutely, and some more footage has come back from the interview that he did with ITV, where he actually says, "I'm sorry, I'm late. I was held up. You know how these things can run on." I mean, and to just add insult to injury, to refer to D-Day as these things run on, and he left early. Even Joe Biden stayed longer than him. Even the Germans stayed longer than him. The one, and this may well be the last. This was the 80th celebration. I hate to bang on about it, but I just think that this really will be one of the things that he's remembered for, is a complete desecration of the memory of all those Brits that sacrificed their lives for the want of a better term, to put him in number 10.
Sure. Well, I mean, unfortunately as well, it must be a reflection on the people who advise it. If I was his advisor, no. If you have to, break away for 15, 20 minutes to do your interview on ITV, but under no circumstances. This is the thing I worry about the future. Is your typical Tory advisor, Labour advisor.
Spads.
Spads, I think a few other words for them apart from that, but anyway.
4 letters?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And these are the people who are products of public schools and Oxbridge and things like that. And they've been brainwashed by their tutors. They haven't been presented the world as it should be. And they've adopted this sort of, kind of woke attitude. I'm told the Tory party, when they look at the candidates who are ideology free. People who are not Thatcherites, classical liberals, old school right wing conservatives, nationalist conservatives. They want milquetoast rubbish
Lord Frost. They refused Lord Frost. His application was rejected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, simply because he has ideas and he wants to get things done. This is the reason I want to see the Conservative Party destroyed. They are just people who are interested in having power at their fingertips. They're not interested in interested in making this country any better. No, I got the Liberal Democrats thingy through, manifesto through. You would have thought the Lib Dem is the current MP as well, just to rub my nose in it. And you looked at her manifesto and what she'd written down there, and it looks like she was standing for the council. Just there was no big idea about cutting the deficit, getting ridding us of the £3 trillion we have in debt. There were no big ideas there. It was it was all a case of, well, we got some problems with the Commonwealth. I think we need to sort that out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bang on here, but I think reform, they may end up being sort of the Giorgia Meloni of British politics. Well, at least we can try.
Well, we're coming on to that. That was going to be my next question. Things were looking pretty bleak after the local elections when reform, doesn't matter how many candidates they stood, they ended up with 2 councillors with Richard Tice at the helm. Sure. What do you think of the move by Richard Tice standing down and allowing Nigel Farage to take over the party?
If anyone thinks that wasn't planned, I may be maligning people on here. Please don't sue me, Uncle Nigel. But if that wasn't planned, I'd be extremely surprised. This was their gambit. I think they wanted to take the attention off of Nigel Farage and say, because I've got all this stuff in America to do. I don't think I can stand. And then there's all this clamour for him to stand. I think it was planned. It was part of the strategy. It was part of that gambit. And it's worked. It's worked. Like most things on the right. It's a bit like the Donald Trump one in 2016 and the Brexit vote. Most people sort of quite reticent to sort of admit for their grubby secret they voted for Brexit with Donald Trump. And they'd like Nigel Farage. Now, I would probably suggest to you probably the real figures is that the Conservative Party is at 16 and probably the Reform Party is 20. I think they should win 3 or 4 seats, I reckon.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, sorry, just with you actually predicted on Herd Immunity News that Nigel Farage was going to run in Clacton. You predicted this 3 months ago.
Sure.
From a nameless insider.
I know. I'll tell you, when we tell the recording, I'll name him. The bloke I know actually for about 12 years.
Yeah.
We're not, we're not friends. We're probably still acquaintances, but sure. we still have a mutual interest, you would say, in politics.
Yeah, so it was no big surprise that Farage had to come back after those results. I mean, yeah, sure. Richard Tice just seemed to have a habit of turning the wrong way at the wrong time just to get run over by the ice cream van. Sure. He didn't hear it coming. And he may well have been a kindly chap, very polite, well-spoken. He's not the worst politician out there, but there's no comparison, is there, between Nigel Farage and Richard Tice? It's night and day.
Yeah. Richard Tice really went down in my opinion, when he went on GB News, and there were 4 people the Hope Not Hate had picked out as saying naughty words on naughty things on Twitter, and he described them as muppets and idiots. That's out of order. Yeah, that really was out of order from Tice. It's one of those things. I've never understood the mentality of appeasing the BBC. Well, maybe the BBC less so, but appeasing Hope Not Hate and the Guardian. Now, if the Guardian did a hit piece on me, I would go down the newsagent and buy 3 copies. I'd frame them, put them all around the house. This is my hit piece from the Guardian. I would see it as a badge of pride, of honour, a badge of honour that. The Guardian have gone after me. This is the thing the Conservative Party and Reform need to get through their heads. You'll never get decent press from the BBC, the Guardian, Sky News, and all the other left-leaning oriented media. And you're just going to, no matter how much you appease them, they will never write a nice thing about you. And the best way to deal with them is say, Duke of Wellington, published and be damned. And tell them F off. No, that's the only way you can deal with it, in my opinion. And I really don't care. I begged Hope or Hate to do a hit piece on me. I said, Nick, look me up, give me a shout. I want to be on your website. I don't care. Would you like me to say some naughty words on Twitter you can print? It's just, and they've left me alone ever since. They really have left me alone. I remember getting an argument with a load of pro-transvestite, transgender people. It wasn't a major thing. I think it was about bathrooms. With transgender people using bathrooms. And I thought I made the liberal point that if you've gone through surgery, if you've lived maybe 5 years as a woman, 2 or 3 things where it was quite obvious you committed yourself to changing your gender, not your sex. I thought that was quite reasonable, and I thought it was quite a relatively liberal and certainly a moderate position to take. They shouldn't be in sports either. I'm sorry, transgender women should not be in women's sports at all.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's a good point that you made, Dave, about the kowtowing to the likes of the BBC. I mean, come on. The mainstream press are never going to back a party like Reform. To them, they're extreme right. They're not just right wing. They're radical right, extreme right. They see them as white supremacists. They would put them on the Prevent report as the most dangerous people and the most dangerous cohort in Britain. And it was quite pathetic to see that Tice clutched his pearls and said, "Oh dear, I've upset the BBC." They'll be upset that the fact that you even bloody exist. That's upsetting to them enough. So they took back a candidate. Actually, they reversed Ferret on a candidate. Don't know if you know this, but he had made some comments about
Camilla Tominley. I didn't see the interview, but Camilla Tominley. Was it? Who was it? Was it a lady?
I think so. Yeah, she'd made some comments about Hitler in the Second World War. There were historical. There were historical contents, and they were accurate. But the mention of Hitler, it's enough to have them running off.
Well, there was a bloke who said that we should have remained neutral in the Second World War.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Well, because I stuck up for him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Usual left rabble, Daniel Frankenstein and things like that. I said, well, his attitude and opinion is no different to that of the Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And the Foreign Secretary Lord
Hamilton.
Yeah.
And the King.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just incredible. And I don't think they actually dealt with it quite well at the press conference. They said, look, we're here to talk about our policies. The candidates learned their lesson. We're moving on. And that's the kind of leadership that Farage can bring. Whereas Tyson's running off trying to please everybody. It's not going to work. Farage has come in, and as you say, they're sitting at 20% right now. However, it brings us on to the Labour Party. Now, they are odds-on favourite. They're not even taking bets. The next closest party to form a government and betting right now, you're getting 66 to 1 on any party other than Labour winning. It's a slam dunk.
Sure.
What are your biggest fears about this oncoming Labour government in the immediate future?
It falls into 2 areas. The biggest fear will be wokeism on steroids.
Yep.
Rachel Reeves was boasting that she was an economist at the Bank of England. The only thing Rachel Reeves has got, I'm an inverted snob. The only thing that Rachel Reeves has in her favour is she was born in Lewisham. She's got a Cockney accent, so that's a double thumbs up from me. Working class Cockney accent, but she goes to Oxford University, and does a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics. And immediately marks her out to be an idiot.
Yeah.
And then she boasted she was an economist at the Bank of England. God help us from all these so-called experts. These are this type of experts. When the COVID pandemic was on, getting us to wear masks and stay indoors and and keep 6 feet distance. This is the problem. This country's bedeviled by ignorant, information-rich, very intelligent people who have no idea of joining the dots and being objective in where their philosophy comes out. I'm sorry, the fact you're economist at the Bank of England and you got a PPE for Oxford, I'm sorry, that's, to my mind, that's a disqualification for being Chancellor of the Exchequer. I think within 6 months, the Labour Party will be absolutely loathed and detested. I remember a joke from my youth, which I can't tell even the full context. But why does the Labour Party smell? So even blind people can hate them.
Yes.
That was in a different context when I was young. But
I can imagine.
Yes,
I can imagine. But look, so in the immediate future, you're worried about economic catastrophe. Is that fair to say? You're worried about tax increases. You're worried about printing more money. You're worried about
it's going to be
the state growing up to 50% of GDP spending.
It's going to be Keynesian economics from start to finish. It's going to be sort of more spending, more throwing money at white elephants. It's going to be an absolute shit show. Excuse my French. And the thing is, all the wokeism, all those little pet projects that the Labour Party have been storing up, like Stella Creasy, yes, a woman can have a penis attitude. There's also talk, I think, of increasing workers' rights. And they'll have bureaucracy. They also want to get closer to Europe. I think after 6 months, the Labour Party will be really loathed. And again, I don't know what their advisors are saying to them. I can only presume they're sort of echo chamber, Oxbridge educated idiots who've been brainwashed by their tutors and lecturers. Do they not understand that immigration is the #1 issue for this country? Excuse me, number one issue for this country, and they have no ideas how to solve the problem. All this rubbish about locking up the dealers and things like that. It's just like drug dealers. I looked at prosecutions for drug possession for the last 5 years. It's hardly changed. A lot of people jail for drug possession has unchanged. So that means for every drug deal you lock up, there's another one to take its place. I'm exasperated at the ruling class in this country that they completely, utterly have failed to deal with any of our problems.
Absolutely. And if you look at, a lot of people are looking at Wales to say that this is how the rest of the UK will look. So you'll have massive tax hikes. You'll have rising in local council taxes. You'll have more industrial action. You'll have more of the LGBT stuff. You'll have more net zero. The whole of the country is going to become a ULEZ zone. Angela Rayner announced that during a Sky TV interview, Dave.
Yeah.
So the whole of the country is really going to look like Canada under Trudeau or New Zealand under Jacinda Ardern. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's more than a fair comment to make. I saw today Sadiq Khan was looking to nick an extra 1 million motorists for speeding in the next by the end of the year. As a responsible journalist, obviously I can't condone any vandalism and criminal activity, but you have to say it's getting increasingly harder. If there is a mass revolt in this country, whereby the Blade Runners go out and start ripping down speed cameras and all the other cameras that they are there to control us. Now, I think the presumption is it's a precursor to road pricing. You pay per mile.
Pay per mile.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've got a 20-year-old Mini Cooper F.
Nice.
Nice motor actually, but it's working. Yeah. And my taxation on my car tax a year on that is something like £220, I think it is. £230. I can't remember what I paid. No, I can remember paying £50 a year tax on my car, 10, 20 years ago. They're just ripping off the motorist. And I think it's getting to the stage now whereby I think the Uni Party are just pushing people too far now. And and when I see sort of timber on the on the ULEZ things, I think I can't condone that, but I'm still enjoying it. I can't condone it, but good luck. Well, not good luck, but you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, you know where it's coming from. You know where you're not condoning it in any way whatsoever. That would be terrible.
Yeah,
you're certainly saying I know where these thoughts are born, out of frustration, out of desperation. Normally, law-abiding people, fantastic Brits, are now having to take, invention. Necessity is the mother of all invention, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, sure.
So look, let me take you on to the European Union. Now, I'm glad we're out. I stood as a Brexit Party candidate in the 2019 general election, and I know you're a loyal Brexiteer to the end, sir. And you were one of the men who said, this is not Brexit. Clean Brexit is the only Brexit. I remember you came out and said that. Now, look across the European Union. There's a rise of the right wing, and the Greens have completely collapsed. Why do you think this is, David?
The local paper, someone's been raped, or someone's been molested, or someone's been knifed in your locality, and you just look upon it as a one-off event. But when you sort of log onto your Facebook, or you log onto your not so much Instagram, but onto your Twitter, and you see the same event has happened in 20, 30 other places, and you sort of start connecting the dots again, and you think, well, this is an epidemic. And when the statistics that are collated by all these countries of the ethnicities of the people that are committing these heinous crimes, and they are overwhelmingly of migrant heritage, or they are directly migrants. Without the internet, and you look at my feed, whereby I point out the grooming gangs and what's going on. I really, I think only something like 1 in 4 people in Britain is on Twitter. From not so many are active, but but I remember Richard Branson said that when it comes to his Virgin Airlines thing, for everyone, people don't necessarily say what a good trip they had with Virgin Airways, but apparently they tell on average 13 people if they've had a bad experience. So what I think is happening here is the people who are sort of minority, the substantial minority who are looking at Twitter and social media, passing information onto other people. And they sort of see it in the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, and maybe the Daily Telegraph. It's kind of been inferred maybe on the BBC, something like that. And again, they come to the overwhelming conclusion that the third world migration from North and Sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East has been a complete and utter disaster for Europe. Even something like the 2016, when 1,000 women were sexually assaulted in Cologne, that actually did make the mainstream media, but for not too long. But I seriously, I would put at least 50% of the reason for the people voting right down to social media.
Right. I think that's right. When you look at France, for example, where Marine Le Pen, leader of the French Rally Party, has she got double the electoral share of Macron. And subsequently he called a general election. He had no choice when you're trounced so badly. Now that's going back to the Charlie Hebdo incident. You go back to the stabbings and the slaughter that you saw in Nice. And then only last year there were toddlers. I think there were 3 or 4 toddlers stabbed by an Islamic terrorist psychopathic demoned.
It
All
was,
in the name.
it was through in Annecy in the east of.
Yes,
It's on the foot. It's in Jura on the
Annecy.
foothills of the Alps.
Correct. And they would never put that on the French channels. It wasn't on the BBC. You were only getting little glimpses. But with fantastic sites like yours, Dave Atherton 20, which we always flash up,
Yeah.
you're bringing it. It changes the game when you see people having the shit beaten out them on a daily basis, whether it be on the streets of Paris, whether it be in Bruges, Rome, the Netherlands. So you're 100% correct, Dave, in saying that channels like your own one, you're on Talk TV, but when you compare the numbers, no disrespect, Talk TV, and I mean it's it's one of the leaders in Britain, giving you attendance.
We get 100,000 alone in vanilla listeners on a Thursday, Friday night, and probably about another 200,000 on social media.
I don't want to put the cat amongst the pigeons, but you look at your viewership, of your impressions, your videos, your clips, and it's great that you come on channels like this. You do other shows as well, but it's fantastic because people can see the man behind those tweets. To what's driving you. So you can see the grassroots. Just when we're off France, what's going to happen in France? Can you see Marine Le Pen winning?
Well, on paper, she will do. She's also got the support of the right-wing Republicans to form a coalition. And may God bless Marine Le Pen. She promised to sort out the Channel migrants.
Well, you're going to get more value out of her than you are from the World Economic Forum puppet, Monsieur Macron.
Absolutely, I get the impression that the people in Europe now are getting exasperated.
Yeah, they must be.
They're exasperated. They just had enough. It has enough of the lies of the government. The way they gaslight us and things like that. Really not a good look all round, is it? So, it's going to be so. No. Onwards and upwards. The thing I really hope is actually one of the most interesting things I saw was Giorgia Meloni's party.
Yes,
I thought Giorgia Meloni was a flop as a prime minister of Italy. She bottled it, or she couldn't do anything, whatever the problems were, but she still increased her vote in the elections. So my worry longer term is the right wing surge going to be a flash in the pan? Is it going to be a one-off, and then we return back to the milquetoast politics of pre-elections? I suppose time will tell. But I really hope that, for the next 4 or 5 years, or however long these people are in power for, things can be done, things can be changed, and also change can be seen.
Well, amen to all of that. But there are a lot of skeptics, and these people are quite right in their skepticism on your followers, my followers, that have almost written democracy off. And they make points like the election steal in the home of democracy as it was, 2020, of Donald Trump being defeated by the geriatric Joe Biden. They talk about Liz Truss. She won that election fair and square. She went to the membership, and she was usurped by the 1922 committee. So
it was coup d'etat.
It was a coup d'etat. So let's not pretend that democracy is an actual reality in the UK. The civil service, Dave, are perhaps the largest threat to our way of life and our culture in the United Kingdom. How do we put them out of a job in destroying our country? We call them the traitor class because they're traitors to their own people.
Indeed,
how do we stop this? What's
in
your
theory
answer?
or in practice?
Both. Oh, let's take in theory first of all.
Let's take theory first. First of all, the Conservative government, with its 80 majority, should have done two things. The first thing it should have done is get the permanent secretaries in. and say, these are our policies. This is what we want to implement. And we'll have a look in a week's time. It's running okay. Then look in another 2 weeks' time. And then we'll maybe have a look at have a full weekly review after that, because we want to see our policies being implemented. If our policies are not being implemented, we will be passing primary legislation, whereby the civil service will be stripped of all their powers. The minister has the complete right of hire and fire. And even if the whole Home Office needs to be fired, from the cleaner right to the permanent secretary, we will do it. And we've got to start from fresh again. We will do it. I think that would be enough to get the civil service on side. But personally, what I would do, I would have passed the legislation with a power trigger from the minister, we'll put you on report, like a sort of trainee, you start a new company, and you're HR, so you know what I mean. So we'll put you on report, and the minute you don't do what we say, you're out. That's it. Mass sackings, and get rid of the whole bloody lot. And there are simple things you could do if you're a minister. Should we say your budget is 100 billion pounds rather than sake. And what you do, you go to the Chief Secretary of Treasury and say, look, I'm not looking to increase my budget this year for 100 billion pounds. In fact, what I want to do is I want to ask for a 20% reduction to 80 billion pounds. And can we keep 20 billion pounds in reserve for performance-related pay?
Yeah.
And so, therefore, if you're not performing, you're going to have to make cuts. People will have to be fired. People will have to be out of their ear. Things won't get done even more. You can learn the easy way, or you can learn the hard way. I'm sorry, for whatever the faults of the Conservative Party it had a majority of 80 people. That is a mandate for the people of this country. People in the civil service have no right whatsoever to dissent.
Absolutely, and I think what you're suggesting is what Liz Truss tried to do. Liz Truss, as they call it now, Trussonomics. It was actually a fantastic idea, because you cannot borrow your way out of an economic slump. This is child's play. You are going to increase your yields by reducing taxes. It's what all aspiring businesses do. They cut away the waste, and they move the investment into areas of profitability. But the markets, which in inverted commas was the Bank of England, has such a stranglehold over the levers of power in this country. It's going to take an internal civil war. So that was the theory. Let's get with the practical side. Let's see the blood and guts on the wall. What have you got for us?
Well, exactly. Precisely. I suppose the defining moment for the relationships between the government and the civil service was the way they dealt with Dominic Raab. There was only two things he did wrong. He was throw his tomato in the bin in frustration, and he shouted at somebody. This was the perfect opportunity for Rishi Sunak to put his foot down on the civil service.
Sure.
He should have come out publicly and said, look, if I was a minister, I would say to the permanent secretary, our conversations, within reason, are public. If you want to defend yourself in public, you're very welcome to. If I think you're doing a crap job, I'm going to tell everybody publicly. But anyway, what I was saying, Rishi Sunak had a perfect opportunity to stand up in Parliament or whatever, get his lectern out outside Number 10 Downing Street and say to the civil service, Dominic Raab is not going. He's a very particularly hard-working minister of great talent. I'm not going to lose him. And quite frankly, if you people can't put up with 2 minor infractions over the last 8 years, you people should really think about your position and move on to somewhere else. And quite frankly, if you carry on complaining, I'm going to sack you. Now, this was a perfect opportunity to put his foot down and make his mark on the civil service. I've got no idea why Sunak bottled it. Now, generally speaking, I hate to say this, generally speaking, when you have leaders who are weak and bend over at the slightest excuse,
yes,
it's the 1970s. We've got the negatives. There's something in their past, which MI5 civil service have on them, and they use it to their best advantage. I don't know about. I'm talking generally. I'm not talking specifically about Richie Sunak, but I can only, Sunak, the way Sunak dealt with Dominic Raab was absolutely appalling and absolutely disgusting. You can only think there must be more to this than meets the eye.
And Suella Braverman, and Lee Anderson, and Lord Frost. The names go on and on and on. And what you say is absolutely right, Dave, that unless we breach this massive chasm between democracy and civil service rule, then we're going to go nowhere. You're going to see more migrants. You're going to see higher taxes. You're going to see the prisons and the judicial system being based, and the policing being based on a 2-tier system. And this brings me on to a little conversation we had before we went on today, if you don't mind, where you've got a system now where Jewish members of the public and Jewish officials are being told and instructed by the police to wear stab vests. Could you elaborate a little bit on the story that we were talking about before we came on today? You put this out as a tweet, which we will leave the link to.
Sure, indeed. There's a rabbi. Well, the backstory is that there's a rabbi. I won't name him.
No.
There's a rabbi who was awarded an MBE by the Queen 10 years ago for his work on interfaith relations. I'm told the rabbi really is a particularly nice person. He spends all these days. Doing pastoral work. You might go and see a 96-year-old survivor of Auschwitz, in a care home, and offer them, sympathy and conversation and a bit of company. And and he spent a lot of time in East London, trying to forge links with the Muslim community and also the Christian community, Christian and Hindu community as well. And he advertised on his website. He put out a fund, GoFundMe or something. Might not be GoFundMe, but that kind of thing.
Sure.
Whereby he was looking to provide warm clothing for IDF troops in the north of Israel, on the Golan Heights, where it gets quite cold in winter. He specifically stated the money will not be spent on arms and ammunition. But that wasn't good enough for the local Muslims. And 5 Pillars wrote a vanilla piece. It was not incitement. It was not overly biased. They just stated the facts. But the mob turned out outside. And they were sort of ranting and raving like they do. And the Redbridge police were called, and they had a little word with him, and they said, well, probably the best thing you can do, Rabbi, is you and your wife, when you're in public, is wear a stab vest. This is the typical Western police. They don't go in there mob-banded and arrest them for incitement and rabble rousing and breaches of the peace. They go in there and they just deal with the secondary problem, not with the primary problem. A bit like Tommy Robinson, you know, they don't deal with fundamentalist Islam; they deal with Tommy Robinson's reaction to it, you know. And what's happened is you know, because of all, Sadiq Khan has been an absolute, what's the word I'm looking at? Poisonous.
He's racist. He's racist against these whites, and he's anti-Semitic. There's no doubt about it.
The amount of poison that Sadiq Khan has inflicted on this country by being soft on the marches on Saturday afternoon is completely completely emboldened. That's the word I'm looking for. The extremist Muslim community to go out there and be outrageous. This guy who I'm referring to, he said the area in East London is 8% Jewish. And this guy who's standing for the Green Party said in a tweet that the area should be cleansed. I didn't use the word cleansed, should be rid of people who are genocide enablers. You know, that to my mind is incitement.
That is.
And brazenly, openly racist and anti-Semitic.
Well, that is absolutely disgusting, and it puts me in mind of what's happened to Nigel Farage in the past couple of days with the attacks that he's seen. Just yesterday, he was going on his bus, his tour bus through Barnsley. There was a counter protest. Yeah, they were waving, and then he's attacked with cans. I think wet concrete was thrown. And on the BBC today, in response to this, the mayor of Bristol, Marvin Rees, says on the BBC now, paraphrasing, he said, although I can't condone this behaviour, I can understand the rationale behind it. Now, is that not just given the green light to say, if you feel that you want to throw anything at Farage, go ahead?
Yes. That is an irresponsible and disgusting thing to say. Really, it's a case of that man should be publicly chastised for those comments. You know, if you say that someone's got a certain ideology or belief that you disagree with that's legal and moral, but you are okay to attack, that means to say that every single politician in this country, in theory, is open to physical attack. So, you know, it is one of the things that the left cannot bear, is hearing an opinion from the centre right that is popular. It's I'm sorry, Marvin, he's not Marvelous Marvin. He's complete and utter so and so who should not be in the public sphere. You know, he should be cast through polite society. You know, to go back to obscurity from Bristol where he came from. You know, this is just so irresponsible. It is completely out of order.
And it's Bristol, isn't it? That's the home. It's where they throw statues in rivers. And don't get any penalty for the vandalism or the destruction. Yeah, look, the radical left are very dangerous people indeed. They're not identified by any of these independent reports, Dave, like the Prevent report.
Sure.
And it will sadly take another David Amos to happen before anything's done about this. Now, obviously, Joe Cox was murdered, killed by allegedly
white extremists,
but by a far right extremist, so they say. We have to take the word for it. But the escalation definitely, although I am biased, seems to be coming from the left in politics. And this has been fueled, I think, I don't know what you think, by the apathy towards the protest that you see from the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas lobby. They seem to be emboldened by this.
Precisely. Sadiq Khan, in my opinion, has lit the blue touch paper, and we're all standing back, and we're all paying the price for it. Sadiq Khan is complete and utter charlatan. I don't know how far I can go in criticising him, but he really is a malign influence who I believe is setting out to undermine this country, in my opinion. You only have to look at all the LGBT flags still were raised during the D-Day celebrations, and he did very little, if nothing, to mark the D-Day. This is a man who has no affinity in this country. His only affinity, from what I can see, is radical Islam.
Indeed, and Sir Mark Rowley is equally responsible, surely, for the complete apathy. Not just that, it's the two-tier policing that we've seen. You mentioned Tommy Robinson. That anyone waving a Union Jack, we've mentioned that we've put up clips as well of two young lads after the rugby put up the St George's cross and were pounced upon. Meanwhile, the Palestinian, there's maybe 10,000, 5,000 Palestinian flags being waved around the capital city of Great Britain, and nothing is done about it. So,
they're all banging on about, from the rivers of the sea, Palestine will be free, which is an openly anti-Semitic chant, I say anti-Semitic and anti-Israel chant. I wrote today on Twitter. Israel has the ability to commit genocide in Gaza. It has a nuclear bomb in the worst case scenario. It has the firepower. It has the artillery to completely destroy the Gazan people, but they choose not to. Also, as well, let me also quickly add as well that normally in war, for every combatant who dies, normally 8 to 9 civilians die accordingly. So you drop a bomb, a soldier gets killed, and 8 to 9 civilians get killed. The Israelis have been so particular on and how they've dealt with the Hamas threat in Gaza. The ratio is 1 to 1.
It's a damn near impossible situation when you have terrorists hiding amongst the public. That is the most cowardly way to fight any battle. And obviously, we tried to stay as neutral as we can on little news channels like this, where we don't want to see innocent people being killed, but we don't want to see terrorist organizations getting away with murder. It's almost an impossible puzzle to solve when innocent people are being killed on both sides. But look, we'll talk about this another time. But before you go, and time always goes so quickly when we are chatting. Of course, we're having fun in amongst the pain, the misery. Andrew Bridgen, a gentleman that we've interviewed, had the privilege to have on Herd Immunity News. That was a big guest for us. He's running up there in Northwest Leicestershire. Yeah. Now, no one's talking about the subjects that made him famous or infamous. No one's talking about the World Health Organization treaty, which is going to go live next year. No one's talking about excess deaths. No one's talking about jab, vaccine, injured and dead. Why is that? Is it the public don't care? Is it not a vote winner? Are they apathetical? Why is it not being talked about, spoken about?
It's been suppressed by Big Pharma and the political establishment. I think now, again, because of social media, it is now becoming an accepted fact that the vaccines have been absolutely disastrous. So when Professor Angus Dalgleish, who was a professor of oncology, is saying the vaccines are inciting turbo cancer, he's a man who has to be taken seriously. He was told to shut up by the NHS. I've been told. Well, in fact, he said it publicly. He was told to shut up. I believe the effects of the vaccine have come out a little bit quicker than I anticipated. I bet Rishi Sunak can't wait to jump on a plane with his missus to California. I bet you he can't wait. Get away from it all. And
he's happy to lose.
Yeah, not my problem, Gov, attitude, and I'm sure the Labour Party will be just as bad as the Conservative Party, in denial. They started off with that was all the conspiracy theory, and now they've sort of gone to
not anymore.
Yeah, I know, that's gone. So they're now saying that the vaccine saved more lives than it killed. Let me see your figures. Let me see your figures on this. No, I'm sorry. There's two close people I know who both suffered cancer, and one probably has cancer. And in my family, we have no history of cancer at all, and from both sides of the family. My grandmother died at the age of 101, literally of old age. There was no other way you could describe it. My other grand died when she was 94, and she was still smoking to the day she died. And there is no history of cancer in the family. Somebody has it, probably has it.
It's as plain as the nose on your face. We've interviewed lots of analysts, psychiatrists, psychologists, virologists, and there's maybe 10% to 20% aware of these things, and they're also aware of the central banking digital currency. Now, there are 114 countries that are either planning this, getting ready to roll it out in the next year, or are actually doing this. It's happening right now in Australia. We have very good friends in Melbourne, and they're talking about the digital ID. So you tie the digital ID and social digital banking, social credit scoring, central digital banking, you put that into the mix. And the next time there's a pandemic, which Andrew Bridgen predicted will be once the WHO treaty has gone through, once it's been ratified, then you will not be able to go overseas. You will not be able to buy your shopping because you've been a naughty boy. You haven't had your jab. This isn't being spoken about. Are the Brits apathetic? Is it the mainstream? What's happening?
Right, okay, fine. Well, this pandemic, which I think will become, my prediction is that the avian flu pandemic will become official around September, October.
This year?
This year, yeah. Avian flu. They're softening us up. Somebody in Mexico died of it, apparently. So, from what I can work out, the release of the COVID virus from the Wuhan lab was accidental. But the minute it got out, the political powers that be thought they would use it to their advantage. For example, what is demonstrably true is that when it first came out in early 2020, Wuhan airport was closed to internal flights, but it was open to international flights. That is cynical. And I think what happened was the Democrats saw the COVID pandemic as an opportunity to bring in, because they knew that Trump would probably get re-elected on the basis that he'd done such a good job with the economy.
Wow.
It was the best figures of our lives. And, I've seen videos from Tim Pool where he was bumping into people and said, he was chatting to salespeople and what have you. And they said, I've never earned so much money. And so what I think the Democrats did they used the pandemic to their advantage to game the system for the 2020 election. Postal ballots, for example. There's the postal ballots.
Now I know why. Now I know why you gave September, because the election's in November. The next election's in November. So you're more than, if you have a lockdown situation, you can roll it out again, because there's no way sleepy Joe Biden, the man who actually, Rishi Sunak crapped on the memory of the dead on D-Day in Normandy. Yeah. Joe Biden literally crapped himself on stage. Did you see that? Did you see that?
I didn't see the gory details, but
no. Well, he crouched like a toddler. It's not the first time. But anyway, that plays out exactly. If it works the first time, try it again. And that's what will happen. That's your prediction.
So expect avian flu around September, October of this year.
No. Dave, I hope you're not right, but I've got a horrible feeling that you are right. You are correct. And we're going to go down this all over again.
Yeah, no, there you go. So, and I think what will happen is that if they do declare a state of emergency over an avian flu epidemic, I think, and Trump loses, I think.
Wow. Civil war. That's going to be civil war. If the Americans get robbed again and their country's going to be flooded and they're going to have all their industries culled, even though the economy's struggling along.
Sure.
They ain't going to. You know how many guns there are in the States? There's something like 600 million. They ain't going to put up with that. No way.
They're generally owned by Republicans.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, something like 60% of Republicans own a gun versus 30% Democrats. But no, we live in particularly dangerous times, and perhaps we keep this video for posterity.
Okay.
And see if my
Mystic Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I still believe that there was a lot. Apparently, what happened was the virus got out, and there was a games in China. I think it was
military. There was a military event, wasn't there? Yeah.
September 2019, and they deliberately let loose people who were infected with COVID to spread it.
But it was never that deadly. It was only to 0.2% of the population. People who were dying, they had ivermectin and hydrochloroquine that had been tested over 20, 30 years. They took one study that was given to people in a hospice to say that with people with 3 weeks to live, and said, look what it did to 93-year-old Mrs. Brown. She was riddled with cancer, stage 4, and she died after taking it after 3 weeks. Come on.
Yeah, people have many, many comorbidities. And we'll put them down as a COVID death. People who are beyond the average age of death, 85-year-olds, for example. So I tell you this. If I could send £1 million for the protection of Elon Musk, I would do it. It's not too much of an exaggeration to say that Elon Musk is the difference between our functioning democracies and nothing. I bless the ground he walks on, and I really, really hope that that we're carrying on as we are. And the only way I can see the Democrats winning the next election is if they cancel the presidential elections, and they might use avian flu to do it. Or they will find another reason to do it.
Or a war. If all else fails, go to war.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. But, I just cannot believe how psychopathic the Democrat Party is. They allowed 8 million people in who are completely unvetted. Apparently, I read today 12 ISIS people were detained. Surely then, just to keep your people in power and to maintain your power base and your money base, you are prepared to sacrifice that country to such a degree. Really, these people are utter psychopaths.
Well, they're traitors. They're traitors. And it brings on the subject that we won't have time to talk about today, but foreign money, foreign investment. You cannot go into the BRICS nations and invest in China, Russia, India to anywhere near the extent that they do here. It's open season, it's open borders, and it's open season. And that's probably the thing that you cannot decouple those two: foreign direct investment and mass, unlimited, unfettered immigration that you're having in our nations. But is there, look, everybody go on to Dave Atherton 20, all the herd immunity viewers, you probably have something like a 90% compliance rate from our followers at Herd Immunity News, because
you're very kind.
you're definitely cut from the same cloth, if you don't mind me saying. It's a massive compliment to you from the majority of our beloved followers and viewers. And as you say, you've got some amazing followers, Dave, that the information that they bring, so do we at Herd Immunity News. We've got people that almost, they fuel the show and what they send us.
Yeah.
And for your amazing viewers and followers, and ours as well, we always like to leave a little ray of hope, a little twinkle in Dave Atherton's eye that he's giving us as that little do not despair, we will get there moment.
I think Trump has a particularly good chance of being re-elected. Particularly good chance. I think the Democrat vote will stay at home. People say, "Oh, I might vote Democrat." Yeah, I don't think they'll bother to turn up. I think Trump will be a strong winner. I think even if the avian flu comes in, I don't think they can print enough ballots in time. And when Trump gets in, I think there will be a bloodbath in Washington, an absolute bloodbath. And the only thing I'm worried about is, it's like Elon Musk, his assassination. Apparently the two whistleblowers from the Boeing Aircraft Corporation have both done suicide.
Yeah.
Excuse my skepticalness on this one. So I think that's right. I think Nigel Farage will be elected. I think more comes to be than you imagine. I think there will be at least 2 or 3 other Reform MPs going that way. The worst case scenario is if they get 2 or 3 MPs into Parliament, I think the Conservative Party will be brought to heel. I think there will be. I hope there will be a purge of the left in the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And I've been supporting a guy from Sutton Coldfield against Andrew Mitchell, who was a nasty globalist. Nasty globalist. He.
What's his name, Dave? Is he a reformer?
Yeah. What's his name? The reform guy is Mark. I think his surname's Hatch.
I'll get it up.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look. Sutton Coldfield Reform. First name Mark.
Mark Hoth.
Yeah, there you go. And he's up against Andrew Mitchell.
Shout out Mark Hoth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the guy we want to vote for. Unfortunately, bloody Andrew Mitchell's got 19,000 majority. And,
that can be wiped.
Well, we can but hope. So I really do wish him well. So I think if there's 2 or 3 Reform MPs, I think the Conservative Party will be brought to the negotiating table, and hopefully they can get a common understanding. But there are people in the Conservative Party who would pluck their own eyes out, and cut their own penis off to stop Nigel Farage becoming the leader of the Conservative Party.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Nigel Farage and George Galloway in the House of Commons? Can you imagine the explosive debates and conversations that would come up? I know they're from polar opposites. They're both Brexiteers. They're both unionists, believe it or not. They're both non-globalists. They're not part of the World Economic Forum. There's a lot of things Galloway says that are completely abhorrent to you. But just for the sake of political debate, to have Galloway and Farage, I don't think you need anybody else from Reform. If Farage gets in, I'd love to see Ben Habib in. We've interviewed Ben, met Ben, complete gentleman. And even put Tyson as well, just for giggles, to get Isabella Oakeshott on camera. You're calling it Top TV.
I was starstruck. I was in the Talk TV reception, and Isabel walked out. I think she's 45-ish, something like that. Really? She looked really, really fit.
Out for you, sir. That's okay. Now, we asked the question, are you in favour of mass deportation of those who entered your country illegally over the past 5 years. Why has this hit a nerve? And what is your response to that question?
Right. There should never be any amnesty for illegal immigrants. Every single illegal immigrant, whether it's 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, should be immediately deported. Anybody who has served, even if they got their residency, got their 5 years leave to remain, who has committed an offence of 1 year suspended or actually literally 1 year in jail or more, should be immediately deported. I'm sorry, if you've got to go back to Afghanistan, you've got to go back to Iraq, you've got to go back to Iran, so be it. I'm sorry, you came here not in good faith, and we should deport you in good faith. Also, as well, we should be looking at our work visa thing. I firmly believe in a 3-year moratorium. I also believe that that there should be no. Pakistan, for example, won't take back our convicted rapists. So therefore, there should be a 5-year ban on all immigration, all visa issuances to Pakistan. And also we should suspend all foreign aid to Pakistan as well. And if you want to get your money from China, good luck. They'll own everything within 5 years. And I think we need to have a debate on things like should we have a ban on the burqa? Should we have a ban on halal meat? I've seen videos of cows having their throats slit, and it takes them 13 seconds to die while their jugular veins are spurting out blood. These people should be fully stunned. Apparently, the reason for halal meat is that the butcher who kills them has to recite a verse from the Quran before they kill them, and they have to be fully conscious to hear it. I'm sorry, in a civilized society, there is no place for that kind of butchery. And I'm sorry, if you don't like it, you want to throw a tantrum, you want to have a riot, you should be dealt with firmly and appropriately under the law.
Absolutely. I'm sure so many of our viewers, followers, and listeners will agree with that. But what they do in Australia is quite interesting. When you're given your residency, you come attached to that and built in is a bridging visa. If you break the law, that's serious crime, not parking tickets or speeding fines. But if you break the law, whether it's fraud, GBH, abuse, terrorism, hateful language, or incitement to violence, you are sent out the country. You are taken out. All your privileges are gone, and you're exported back home.
Bye-bye.
Should we have that here?
Yeah. Good. Good night, campers. See you in the morning. I know. I just cannot believe how soft we are in the West. I just cannot believe it. It is my ultimate frustration that the people who are, you look at that deportation flight to Jamaica that all the lovies stopped, and one guy went on to commit murder. One guy went on to commit rape. I'm sorry, when you get the deportation stage in this country, that person has done a serious crime. There was a Somalian who was also saved from deportation. He was part of a gang rape of a woman. And everyone banks on about Mo Salah, but what's his name? The runner Mohammed
Mo Farah.
Thank you. And everyone sort of lauds him. Well, his brother was deported back to Somalia in 2016 after serving 4.5 years for a vicious knife attack. These people should not be in this country. And it's a complete exasperation from me that we are so bloody soft.
Even Labour, sorry to interrupt, Dave, but even Labour were sending back, during the Tony Blair years, were sending back 40 to 50,000 people. So this isn't us being extreme radical right wing. This is all within our gift. There are
Sure.
laws in place right now, whether it be the 1971 Immigration Act, whether it be the piracy laws and the maritime rules that we can use. The prospects of us doing this heighten when we use emergency regulations under the Terrorist Act. So perhaps it's about time that the depopulation, so you're talking about 15, 20 years ago, to get people and their families removed back to the country whence they came. And if that happens to be France, drop them off on the coast. Is that fair?
No, this is the way I would deal with the migrant problem from over the channel. I would go and speak to Macron, who is every power,
or Marine Le Pen.
We can but hope. We can but hope. We can but hope. I don't know, you know, Marine Le Pen has pledged that she would stop the migrants coming over from France to Britain. But anyway,
yes,
we I'll clutch at any straw that I can on something like that. What we should do when it comes to the migrants is have a word with whoever, not Marine Le Pen, but assuming Macron's in charge, is that we're going to return these people whether you like it or not, and if they need a Royal Navy escort, so be it. You know, if you want to, reenact the Battle of Trafalgar and also the bombing of Brest in the destruction of the French fleet at Brest in 1942 by the Royal Navy, you're welcome to join.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And they talk about a citizens' army or a people's army. If they put defence of the border on the agenda, then I'm sure you'd see the numbers skyrocket. People ready to go down. I mean, I'd volunteer in my 50s that I am. I'd volunteer for absolutely maybe a little bit of soup and a cup of tea. I'd go down to the border and play Captain Mannerings to try and defend the realm.
No.
Wouldn't you?
That's the whole point. Is apparently the border force of the Royal Navy are very reticent to do anything about it. Well, fine, fire them and get volunteers in, because there will be probably thousands of people in this country, ex-veterans, who would love to do it. And this is the problem we have in this country. We are just so spineless. We are ruled by the civil service. If Plan A fails, move on to Plan B. I can give you Plan C as well. Just push the boats back. By the way, in Greece, I've got the exact figures, but the height of the invasion from Turkey to Greece and the islands, it's only a matter of 4 or 5 miles. Something like 200. I think it was 200,000 a year were getting through. And now they've got it down to 5,000 because they simply push the boats back.
That's right. And whether it be, we made the point about making arrests. If you treat someone breaking into your country the same way that you would do as those who break into your home, even arrests and imprisonment, and people are saying, yes, the prisons are full, build another prison. Can you imagine the response when people find out they're going to be doing 2 years hard labour? If they don't want to work, if they don't want to contribute in the factories, they do solitary confinement. And that's it. So and if you bring children, they're going into care.
Sure. No, funny enough, if you want obscure numbers and obscure statistics, the cost of housing an Albanian prisoner is 10% of the cost of it is in Britain. So we can say to the Albanians, tell you what we do, we'll pay you 3 times the cost. 3 times the cost. You're making a few quid out of it yourself, lads.
Yeah.
And we'll send you all our Albanian prisoners on the proviso they stay in prison under Albanian conditions. Fine. It's a win-win. They got a few extra quid. We got rid of all our scum from the prison.
And if it's a sexual offence, can I add in perhaps a chemical castration?
Well, there we go. Please do what you think is appropriate, Mr. Albania.
We do it here. Send them home.
Well, which country we don't care, but I'm sorry. Send these people back pay these countries where it's a lot cheaper to house these prisoners, send them all back, and I'm sorry if it's not very humane. I don't really care. You have a choice to commit the crime or not. Don't come crying to me.
Sure. Well, it's a war, Dave. I mean, war is not humane. We need to protect the innocent women, and it's predominantly women and young girls who are targeted by these foreign criminals on an industrial scale. You put it up on your fantastic Twitter page all the time. These people, the great guys and women who are catching these people, who are grooming young children. What are they called again? What's their site?
So the site of what? Sorry.
You put up the videos of these groups who entrap and catch paedophiles. Predominantly, they're from overseas.
Like, hang on, I'll have to put it out. But I get most of my stuff from Kev, actually, whose complete Twitter profile I can't remember. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send out a tweet tomorrow. Radio Genoa, I've got quite a few.
Radio Genoa, yes.
Yeah, Radio Genoa as well. And I'll look up Kev's thing tomorrow for us. And I can't believe, the worst case I've ever seen of these paedophiles was a guy who was trying to entrap this 13-year-old, and he had arranged to go to Syria with her. He was basically trying to kidnap her and take her to Syria.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And the point is, some of the sentences, when these people are arrested and taken to court, sometimes the sentences are derisory. 1 year suspended. I've seen someone get 2 years in prison for it.
Yeah, because the prisons are full.
Talking of which, that guy who did that stabbing in Golders Green got a suspended sentence. Unflaming.
Yeah.
Believable. That was 5 years. That was racially aggravated.
Absolutely. Golders Green. It's a strong, passionate Jewish community, part of London's finest.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. They move in, they commit the crime, they know they've got a left-leaning courts, the human rights people come in and say, oh, naughty boy, don't do that again. And you get to stay. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. It's unforgivable. And you're absolutely right, Dave. We should be as hard on these people as we can as possible. Now, go to Dave Atherton 20. We'll always leave the links for it. The man has amazing content. But look, all that remains for me to say is, Dave, thank you very much for appearing on Herd Immunity News, sir.
My pleasure, and thanks for inviting me.